Hey guys, how's it going? It's Clarissa with That Dumb Movie Show. So, the video game movie curse. This is a term that's always floating around. It always comes up when there's a new adaptation about to hit screens. And arguably, yes, I think there's never really been a great video game movie. And I know a bunch of you are about to vehemently disagree in the comments, but at least for the sake of this argument, let's just at least pretend that that's true. I mean, we can at least agree that the recent adaptations like Warcraft or Assassin's Creed have kind of flopped at the box office, and yet Hollywood keeps having a go. It's like it can't resist. It can't wrap its head around why you wouldn't want to adapt video games. I mean, we adapt books, we adapt comic books, we adapt specific features of the iPhone. So, you know, it feels a little like it's this locked chest, and if Hollywood could just figure out the key, it would get all the money in the world. And so audiences, we're now in a position where we're just sitting here waiting for the one film that will break the video game curse. And unfortunately, I don't think Tomb Raider is it. But at the same time, I think we have shifted into this mindset where we're waiting for a curse breaker that is miraculous, that is earth-shifting, and I just thought that Tomb Raider was okay. It was an okay movie. I kind of enjoyed it. Now, I think one of the biggest advantages that Tomb Raider actually has is that the game that the film is adapting, which is the 2013 reboot of the franchise, does already have this quite A to B linear narrative, as opposed to being open world or mission based, and so there's something there that you can actually just kind of condense into the runtime of a film. So like that game, it does pick up with a younger Lara Croft, played here by Alicia Vikander, and the film does add this quite central plot line of her going on the search of her missing father, who's played by Dominic West, and his notes lead her, like in the game, to the island of Yamatai, which is off the coast of Japan, and it was once ruled over by Queen Himiko, who in the game is called a Sun Queen. In the film, she's more of a Death Queen. And as she journeys across this island, we kept getting to sequence after sequence in which I kept thinking, oh, I remember playing this bit. This Lara's much more sneaky. I just ran through and murdered everybody. And the film even keeps the quite famous bit from the game where there's the plane wreck that's kind of stranded across a waterfall, and so the action sequences are pretty great. They're well choreographed, well shot. It's directed by a Norwegian director, Roar Uthwag, who, I'm sorry, that's probably a really bad pronunciation, but he's really well known for directing a Norwegian film called The Wave. And they kept the QuickTime events, which I don't know quite how to describe it, but there will be bits in the film where it goes a little bit slow-mo and your hand will just subconsciously want to reach for an X button. And as much as there are significant departures from the game, for example centering the plot with the missing dad, there's so much that it picks up detail-wise, which is not only quite nice for fans of the game, but also it just makes it feel grounded in something. Unlike, for example, Assassin's Creed, which wasn't really based on any specific game, so it was just kind of floating around, confused by everything. And one thing I did really appreciate about this film is how they dealt with Lara herself, because I've got to admit, I wasn't crazy about her in the 2013 game. I did really like how they tried to create this more flawed, more grounded, more overwhelmed by the situation hero, but they didn't quite meld the two aspects of her being terrified by everything and then her, when you're playing as her, nailing 20 dudes in the face with a pickaxe. And also she fell down a lot. I feel like 50% of that game was her falling through things that definitely should have killed her. But what they did with the film is that pretty much right away they established her as this hardcore MMA enthusiast. And so when she's fighting later on, she's fighting as an MMA fighter. Her first instinct is always to get the opponent to the ground, grapple them, get them in a headlock, and that was cool because I feel like actresses usually when they're training for action films, there's such a focus on keeping them lean and graceful, but here, like, Alicia Vikander went for it. Like, she went for it. She put on 12 pounds of muscle, which is insane. Like, her training was focused on strength training, weightlifting, MMA techniques, and usually, like, I feel weird because this is usually not the stuff that I would even pick up on or really care about, but I feel like for this film in particular, it was really great to see because her training just completely informed the physicality of the character. How she stood, how she ran, how she fought especially. It's great as well because on top of that, the film does still keep quite a lot of the characteristics from the 2013 game. She's still very flawed. She still gets overwhelmed by certain situations, and in this film particularly, she has this sense of stubbornness that comes from her attachment to her missing dad, and it makes her headstrong. She makes mistakes because of it, and I like that it's not the old trope of being the cold, emotionless badass, which I guess is how you would describe the old Lara Croft, which is not to hate on her, but that character was very of her time when we were in a period in which there were pretty much no female heroes, and so it felt refreshing to see someone like that. It's just great that in 2018 we can progress the character along a little bit more. We can let her be a bit more grounded, a little bit more flawed. Okay, so I know it sounds like I'm being very positive about the film right now, but let's reel it back in for the big negative point here, which is the dialogue. I found the dialogue so almost unbearably dull in this movie, to the point that it was so boring I can't remember any of it to quote it back to you, and it was so boring I didn't think to write any of it down. It's just characters very straight-facedly telling each other the plot or telling each other the most obvious emotion that they would have in that situation, and it's just such a shame because the action sequences are great, but it's such a drag to get in between them. It's one of those situations in which one element could just bring down the entire film, whether or not it's breaking the video game curse. And it is a shame because Alicia Vikander was so great, the character's so great. I genuinely think if they could just spruce up the dialogue a little bit, I would be down for a sequel. But if you guys have had a chance to see Tomb Raider, I would love to know what you guys thought. You can let me know down in the comments below, or you can hit me up on Twitter, details down in that description box. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe so we can hang out and talk about movies. I'll see you guys soon. Bye!